Well, the reason that Garoppolo and his price may have been suppressed is probably the same reason why a new quarterback, Sam Darnold, I imagine was very happy to sign with the San Francisco 49ers. Not just the fact that he has some relation to the new defensive coordinator, having played for the Panthers last year, Steve Wilkes, and then now getting the chance to play with the 49ers, but he signs a one year deal, Mark. I think this is fascinating. Like the quarterback room just continues to throw different wrinkles in, whether because of injury or, play or I don't know. But right now you got three quarterbacks all at age 25 or younger. And Darnold, at least for now, appears to be third on the pecking order.
It does seem that way. My first reaction when the Niners, or when this was reported, again, nothing is official until Wednesday, but when it was reported, my first reaction was, wow, they must not really be confident in Trey Lance. But the more that I thought about this as the day has gone on, Evan, I'm a little more of the belief that Sam Darnold has been brought in to be the third string quarterback. And unless, things go poorly potentially with Brock Purdy's rehab from UCL repair surgery, maybe he's a second stringer for a couple of weeks, for a few weeks, and maybe he has to make a spot start here or there. But the bottom line is, Evan, and we've talked about this a lot this entire offseason, ever since Brock Purdy went down in the NFC Championship game. The Niners need three at least decent quarterbacks, guys that they feel that if any one of them start, they could, win a game or two with. I think Sam Darnold fits that description. The only question for me is, and I'm sure this was a point of discussion during the negotiation process between Darnold and his agent and the 49ers, is, hey, Sam, are you comfortable being a third string quarterback? Like, do you want to at least be a second string guy? Do you want a chance to win a starting job? Because the Niners can come out and say, yeah, you'll have a chance, Sam. But the writing's on the wall. If Brock Purdy is healthy enough, he's going to be the starter. That's the one question I have. Sam, personally, if you were being honest, do you want to be a third stringer? Because I would be a little surprised if he would be. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I'm certainly, inserting myself into Sam Darnold's head. I don't know how he feels about this, but it seems to me like he wouldn't want to be a third string quarterback, and that's where my mind gets a little muddied on this, uh, because you're right. It seems like he'd be in line to be the third stringer at best for the 49ers.
Yeah, I think there's a couple things. One, there are multiple connections in San Francisco
Yep.
to Sam Darnold. Obviously, it mentioned Wilkes, his former interim head coach, who he started the last 6 games of the season for the Panthers, nearly made the playoffs. Like Sam Darnold objectively was the best version of himself at the end of last season that he's been in his young career. Secondly, there were reports that before the 49ers traded for Jimmy Garoppolo in 2017, that they were potentially interested in Sam Darnold coming out of college. So maybe Kyle Shanahan is had his eye on this guy for a while in various capacities. Not too sure. But if I'm Sam Darnold, the reason why I want to be in this quarterback room is, yes, I'm sure the selling point is come in, you'll be our third guy. But as history has told us recently, you are one, maybe two injuries away from being the man. And if Sam Darnold feels like he can be the man on potentially a team with the best roster in the NFC, with the best weapons in football, well, then damn it, I might be willing to take a 1 year flyer to try and just have the chance if two guys in front of me go down, or let's say I beat out one guy in front of me. I don't think necessarily that also leaves Brock Purdy out of that equation. I know people's mind first go to Trey Lance, but look, like, what does it mean for Trey? What does it mean for Brock? It means that there's another young, talented quarterback, maybe not as much as the other two, in your same room that has a chance to compete for that job and at the very least push you. So if you're Kyle Shanahan, yes, I think it means that you don't have the utmost confidence in one of your guys. But I think that probably has to do more with both of those guys' injury as far as Brock, and then, of course, injury plus lack of track record for Trey Lance. Sam Darnold doesn't have as much of a track record. He has a little more of an injury history as well. But if Shanahan is bringing in Steve Wilkes to be his DC, He's got a relationship. It probably just makes sense. And then Sam Darnold can take a flyer and try and make some more money next year if it doesn't work out. And at the very least, even if he doesn't play, he's still associated with a quarterback guru that I'm sure a lot of teams in the future will want to perhaps be interested in or at least associated with. So to me, I guess it doesn't make sense if you want to be the starter like he was drafted to be a few years ago. But to me, I kind of see it as a win-win for Sam Darnold. And, maybe he lucks into a Jimmy Garoppolo situation, as we just saw made $70 million.
Maybe, and maybe he doesn't even play, but that could still rehab your image as a quarterback a little bit, because you remember a couple of years ago, after a bad tenure with the Chicago Bears, Mitch Trubisky goes to be Josh Allen's backup in Buffalo. I think plays in mop-up duty, maybe plays the final week of the regular season, which didn't matter for the Bills, but other than that, didn't see the field. And then he was signed to be the starter for the Steelers. Now, he didn't play well, and he was replaced midway through the season by a rookie, Kenny Pickett. But at least really not playing for a season behind a good quarterback on a good team earned him enough of a, I don't know, rehabbed image to get an opportunity to be a starter again. So maybe this is just a 1-year sit, let your image rehab naturally, and then maybe you'll get a chance at a starting job elsewhere. Then it would be up to Darnold to take advantage of that starting opportunity, which was not the case for Mitch Trubisky. But I want to ask you, let's rewind a year ago, and the timeline doesn't exactly line up, but the 49ers were ready at this point last year to have Trey Lance be their starting quarterback. They had Nate Sudfeld under contract. That's that last offseason. They signed him, and then they drafted Brock Purdy. And the expectation was Jimmy Garoppolo was going to be nowhere near this team. They were going to trade him, whatever. So the Niners basically were okay going into a football season, Evan. Trey Lance as starter, Nate Sudfeld as backup, Brock Purdy as third string. Compare that to Brock Purdy, Trey Lance, and Sam Darnold. What group of three sounds better to you?
Well, just based on, I know we just showed this guy the door, but I'll take the one with Jimmy Garoppolo in it. Just because I've seen him, I know what he is, and I know that Brock Purdy was a sensation last year, but his future to me is also hazy. Like I believe he's the best of the group and has separated himself from this current threesome. But at the end of the day, I don't know if Brock Purdy is going to get better. I don't know if Brock Purdy is going to regress. I don't know. I mean, would you prefer this current quarterback room to the one from last year?
Well, I don't know, because the Niners were set last offseason in not having Jimmy Garoppolo around anymore. Now maybe there came a moment in the offseason where they figured, okay, you know what? There's a chance that this still does work out with Jimmy and we have him around, and that throws the whole discussion off. But they were fine, moving on from him. I mean, that was very clear from the second that the NFC Championship game against the Rams ended. They were done with Jimmy Garoppolo. It was Trey Lance's team. They had Nate Sudfeld. They knew they were going to draft someone that ended up being Brock Purdy, and the rest is history. I'm not exactly sure where I fall, but the fact is that the Niners were okay being without Jimmy Garoppolo last offseason. Now, of course, a bunch of things happened and it totally changed. I don't know. Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold, those seem like three relatively competent quarterbacks to me. While last offseason, one of the three was Nate Sudfeld. That doesn't really do much for me. And one of the others was a 7th-round rookie quarterback who, of course, we know about now, but weren't too confident in then. I don't know. I kind of have a different feeling about it.
Well, I think it comes down to how much you trust Kyle Shanahan. And I think that he has really, if he hadn't already, solidified in a lot of people's minds what he can do with an average to below average quarterback and a guy with some semblance of talent in Brock Purdy. Trey Lance didn't really get that shot. But I do think if you're looking to read into anything as far as Trey Lance is concerned, I do think it means this. It does not mean that Trey Lance's job is on the hot seat or that he doesn't have a future in San Francisco beyond this season and a contract year. But what it does mean is he needs to play his ass off this summer. I mean, he needs to impress some people in OTAs and moving into the preseason because there is now a third member of this quarterback room that does have a track record. And even though it's not anything incredible, has shown that he can also win football games. And right now, what everyone has banked on the quarterback position in San Francisco, mainly due to Jimmy Garoppolo, is the fact that they can win games. So if Trey Lance is not doing anything unbelievable with how much he's grown as a player, as a signal caller, as a thrower, well then he better win the few opportunities that he is given before even the season starts. Otherwise, Sam Darnold might have a leg up. I'm not sure. I really don't know because Brock Purdy, I'd like to think, is going to slot back in as the starter whenever he gets ready and is able to ramp back up toward the beginning of the season. But Trey Lance, there is, I guess, a little more pressure on him than there was before because, like you mentioned, last year it was his job and not even a question of his job to lose. This year, it does feel like it is more of a job to lose.
I agree with you. And that's why my initial thought hearing the Sam Darnold news was they're not too confident in Trey Lance. Now that still might be a little bit of, I don't know. I might be jumping the gun just a little bit here, but I'm not saying that Sam Darnold was brought in to be the starter, but I think there's at least a thought in the 49ers, down in Santa Clara at Niners headquarters of if Brock Purdy's not ready to go week 1, week 2, if he suffers an injury and is out here or there, is Trey Lance good enough to help us get it done? I'm not so sure because Sam Darnold, while it hasn't been pretty at times, he has shown glimpses of really good play. And you mentioned the connection to his former interim head coach and the team's defensive coordinator, Steve Wilks, who's now the Niners defensive coordinator. You mentioned the Niners' interest in him coming out of the draft out of college. Dodged a bullet there with that one. But also, I mean, Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey was Sam Darnold's teammate for years, or for a year and a half. And by all accounts, they are good friends. They get along well together. I mean, that was the team's starting quarterback and starting running back. So I'm sure Darnold had conversations with Christian McCaffrey, and John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan had conversations with Christian McCaffrey about Sam Darnold. And I don't know, maybe McCaffrey said, hey, in the right situation, this dude can play and he can win you some games. I think Brock Purdy's still the starter. That's not in question. But I wouldn't be too shocked if you hear reports, oh, Sam Darnold looking good at offseason OTAs. He has a good training camp. And potentially, if Brock Purdy isn't ready for week 1, week 2, maybe it's a real conversation that comes down to the wire between Darnold and Lance. I think that's possible.
So you still feeling like Trey Lance is going to play more games than Brock Purdy this year?
That's a hot take of mine that I think is not going to even make it through the month of March because
I don't know. I don't know. Look, I do think it depends on how healthy, of course, Brock Purdy is. And again, Sam Darnold has not been an Iron Man. I mean, there's a reason he's signing a 1-year deal as a 25-year-old with his third team.
Yeah.
So don't count him out. I'm just trying to get your temperature on your hot take.
I have
lukewarm.
Lukewarm at best. Yeah, I mean what John Lynch said at the combine seriously changed my mind, changed my opinion. I am not confident that the Niners have much confidence left in Trey Lance. Maybe I'm overreacting to one press conference by John Lynch, but I don't know. I don't think they think that Trey Lance is the answer.
Hey, I overreact to a lot of things, such as Javon Hargrave being the signing of the summer in the NFL. Book it. We're going to look back at this and feel like that $84 million is going to be a discount, even though he's 30 years old. So there's my scalding hot take of the day, Mark. How about that?
Okay, I'll write it down.
Okay.
We'll check back on it in October, and we'll see how it looks.
Yeah. Certainly hope so. Hope he plays well. Hope all the 49ers play well. So they get Javon Hargrave. They sign Sam Darnold. They say au revoir to Jimmy Garoppolo. And they set the stage for another interesting summer. And we're going to have another interesting episode coming your way on Thursday where we can officially, I know we've kind of or at least I have, Mark. I've set things up as if they're already in place and the signings are done, but they put pen to paper or can officially on Wednesday. So that will be an interesting episode for sure. Stay on the lookout for that. We appreciate you tuning in to the 415ers as always. Mark, my man, much appreciated. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. You too, Evan. Looking forward to the next episode already.
Yeah, who knows? 49ers might have another body.
Oh, ooh,
TBD. One probably not as big as Javon Hargrave, but we
probably
shall
not.
see. All right, we'll talk to you next time. Thanks for tuning into the 415ers.